Okay, so we talked in last couple of lectures how Krishna explains that the objects of pleasure catches us and drags us into their own existence, and we start believing that they are the only source of pleasure. But that's how ultimately, as Krishna explained, because of our attachment to these objects of pleasures, our buddhi, the vivek buddhi, or the discrimination power, the power to discriminate right from wrong, gets out of balance, and we lose our buddhi. And there are, of course, various degrees of losing the buddhi. Just because you have intelligence does not mean you have intellect. Intellect and intelligence are two separate things. Clinton was very intelligent, but he lost his intellect. Spitzer was intelligent, but he lost his intellect. So intelligence and intellect are two separate things altogether. Intelligence is a product of mind, product of sansar, what you know about sansar and how clever you are to handle all the impulses coming from sansar. So whenever somebody develops their ego, the intelligence becomes everything for them because they can be compared with someone else. But intellect is something that connects you to the higher self. So it comes from the unknown and it somehow wakes up your ability to discriminate. But this is exactly the wisdom that gets destroyed when you get attached to these objects of pleasures. So that's how Krishna explained the objects of pleasure. And then ultimately you get into the cycle of yoga kshema we talked about. Yoga is attachment to anything, and kshema is all the consequences you suffer because of this attachment. So it's literally, there is another word in Sanskrit called tadatmya, which most of the people know. But if you really break it down, it's very interesting. Tat Atma, you are my Atma. Normally, Atma is you, but we don't know who our Atma is. So we really become attached, and we should be attached to our own Atma and live in that peaceful life because Atma stays away from all these objects of pleasure. It is above and beyond this material world. But we attach ourselves to these objects of pleasure and make them our Atma, Tat Atma. So it's a beautiful word, and that if you break it down, it really understands that eventually these objects of pleasure becomes our soul life, soul purpose of life. And when you have it, you're happy. When you don't have it, you won't feel like committing suicide. This is how man has deteriorated and degraded himself from whatever he actually can be. So Krishna gave that scenario how we lead ourselves into this suffering, but he also gives us a very beautiful solutions. Gita is full of multiple solutions, and it's not just one. We talked about how Patanjali would get you out of it by, he said, the abhinivesh, and then raga and dvesh, and then asmita, and then ultimately avidya. So these are realizing our weaknesses, we can go back. And then we talked about, of course, Nachiket, who ignited the fire. The fire of Nachiket is the internal exploration, which ultimately connects you to the wisdom. It brings the wisdom into your daily life. Today, we're going to talk about Krishna's way of explaining how you can come out of it. There is no point in giving you a diagnosis and not providing a solution. Krishna creates a sense for you to understand your disease, but also he also gives you a solution. So one of the solution that he has given in a beautiful explanation of Gunas is a Karmyog. And Karmyog is ultimately how you act in this world. But what you act is not as simple as how you act, and simple as that. Because behind your action, you have a lot of thoughts, you have a lot of beliefs, a lot of convictions, and all these are controlled by your bhav. So there is a bhav, vichar, and kriya. So it's a lot deeper than just a single action. Action alone does not determine anything. What was your bhav behind it? That's what really determines. So for the purification of your actions, you really have to purify your inner sheaths, the sheaths which actually make up you. We are not just the body, of course. We are also man, we are also vichar, we are also thoughts, we are also beliefs, we are also bhavs, and we are, of course, we are the spirit too. That is the whole purpose of path of spirituality. So all this cleansing has to happen when you chant Om. The Om is not just a pronounced word. It has to vibrate, resonate through all your five sheaths. There is a food sheath, and there is Manomai Kosh, there is Vignanmay Kosh, and there is all those sheaths have to be vibrating at the same time. Then you can say that you have chanted Om. Om is like a totality coming out. Same way, if our actions become a totality, then like if you really bring out every single action based on our bhav, which are, we are remain aware of what we are really thinking inside, what is our bhav. So that's how it will really lead to the Karmyog, which Krishna recommends is the one of the highest philosophies offered by Krishna, because he says that it is a reality. You are in this world, you cannot be inactive. Why? Because we are made out of matter, and matter is made out of particles. All these particles and subatomic particles are in continuous motion. Motion is built into us. In fact, we are built out of motion. There is no way you can say, okay, I'm not going to act, because that itself becomes an action at your mind level, because mind has taken a decision that I'm not going to do anything. But that itself, in a very subtle way, is an action chosen by you. So there is no way to escape from action. So Krishna describes all our actions into three different gunas. According to the spirituality, these gunas are the originators. They are the initial sections that were created in the when the universe was created. So it's very profound, but it's very simple also to understand, because we have three gunas. We have tamas, we have rajas, and we have tapas. And it's very important to understand the difference. The tamas is something where you are in a negatively charged, like you want to consume, you just want to enjoy. Tamas has been described as darkness, where you are just totally surrounded by your objects of pleasure. You're running after objects of pleasure. You want more and more of those, and your life is lived in tamas, and then it is consumed, you are consumed by it, and your life also finishes in tamas. So tamas is many times, unfortunately, is a center guna for most of them. Yet at the same time, there are other gunas which are a little higher than tamas. So next one is rajas, where you do something, but then you want something in return. You have a passion to do something, versus tamas is very inactive. The tamas person doesn't want to do anything. He just wants the whole world to take care of him. And that's it. So that's how these gunas really divide your actions. So rajas is something where you got an energy, a passion to do something. And you want to do something, but deep inside, you still have a desire to get a return for this doing. So that is like a little higher, where you're not doing anything, you come into a state of rajas. For example, a capitalistic country where consumerism is powerful, unless you work, you don't get paid. So America taught the consumerism, and it actually brings out from the tamas level, where if you don't do anything, you don't get paid. And then where you don't get anything, you still get paid, versus rajas, you get paid only if you do something. So that is a little higher level. So that's a little easier to understand. But still, the rajas people have passion, they have energy, but they don't have direction. So they could be wasting their energy and still are occupied with ultimate goal of receiving something. So they're still in the desire state. And then comes the tapas. Tapas is the highest state that is possible in this sansara. Tapas is where you actually do something for someone. For example, you help someone cross a road, a blind man, for example, but you didn't want anything in return. You just did it out of your goodness. So those are tamas activity. Not everybody is in a pure, sorry, the tapas activity. So not everybody is in a pure guna of one thing or the other. Our whole life is rotating between three gunas. It's at some point we will be doing the tamas, some point we'll be doing rajas, and some point we will be doing tapas. So our life is divided, and throughout the day, You may be doing, you may be performing a tamas activity while you're doing your business, where you just want to collect, collect, collect. And then all of a sudden you come home, then you realize that you are doing it for the family. So the family becomes important. And then tapas is activity when you sometimes all of a sudden you have philanthropic action, philanthropic ideas, and you help someone and you say, okay, take this and I don't want anything in return. So everybody has this goodness within them. So spirituality is all about transcending from one into another. So tamas should attempt to go to rajas, and rajas should attempt to go to tapas. So all these gunas are some kind of direction that they give you. It's a very simplified way of explaining such a profound fact, because this goes back to everything. Because tamas can, for example, your thoughts can be tamas, because your basic guna, how your mental character is, whether it is tamas, rajas, or tapas, decides what kind of thoughts you will be having, what kind of bhav you will be carrying, and what kind of actions you will be carrying. So bhav, vichar, and kriya are also ultimately decided by your deep seated gunas that are built into you. And this can really take you back to the origin of the universe. If you really look at scientifically, also we have three particles. We have electrons, protons, and neutrons. So electrons are negatively charged, so they have negative charge. So you can equate the tamas to the electrons, where they're negative and they want something for the pleasure. So it's a negativistic, takes you towards sansar. But then we have positivity, these protons. So there is a protons explains the presence of energy within them. It takes a positive charge and wants to do something in life. So a lot of youngsters are built with this, the Rajas passion, but the direction is not there. So their passion ends up getting wasted or getting in the no direction at all. So the direction is ultimately the tapas activity, which has been equated to neutrons. Neutrons are neutrally charged. They have no positivity, no negativity. They're neutral. So neutral is the ultimate state you want to be in. But being that we are a matter, we are never gonna be ever in one guna alone. We will be continuously transcending up and down throughout our day, throughout our life, throughout the whole year, and till the end of life. But the spirituality tells you something else exists, something that is beyond gunas. These gunas are made out of this basically sansar. The mechanical sansar, the physical sansar that we're talking about, our mind is created from this sansar, which is reflected on our mind. Our thoughts are mechanical, our ideas are mechanical, they all are connected to the matter. So the path that is chosen and path that is shown by the spirituality is to go beyond the gunas. So even if you have all your life could be tapas gun, that you want to do something good for everyone and never want anything in return, it's practically impossible to go beyond that. Then you are still stuck in the guna, which is the very highest state. In fact, sometimes you wonder how these gunas were even invented or created or even thought of. Because if you really realize, this is a very subtle fact that has been depicted in all spirituality, not just in Gita, but many scriptures are filled with discussion on these gunas. So the thing is that sometimes we wonder, and you wonder that whether, how come all these scriptures could have been written by human beings, or they have to be spoken by God? Because like if your car needs repair and you take it to a local mechanic, versus if you take it to the guy who actually made it, is a big difference. In Detroit, you take your car to the guy who actually made it. So literally our whole universe is created from the consciousness. So ultimately the consciousness should know all the secrets, how it's created all these gunas. And when these gunas are depicted, you literally makes you wonder whether these scriptures are really spoken by God or not. And most likely they are. So we don't know, and we don't want to get into that. But for our practical purpose, these gunas is very important for us to understand. So through our Tummo meditation, we're gonna remain aware of how we have lived our life, how much of our activity had ever been consumed by the tamasic tendency or rajasic tendency, or tapasic tendency. So all these things, and then ultimately Krishna also tells you the solution, how to go beyond these gunas. So we will start with Tummo meditation. Again, we're gonna have the first finger and the thumb on Vajrasan. We drop the mudra on our thigh and with legs folded. And we have the usual instructions. We're going to take a deep breath, hold the breath, push it down, pull the rectal muscles up, contract all the muscles, head down, lock the prana, and hold it as long as we can. And we release. The main important thing is not so much of the posture, not so much of the activity, but the main thing is to remain awake and alert throughout the meditation, because that awareness is going to open up all the secrets for you and analyze your own actions in whichever way you have performed. So let's go ahead. We'll stick to the Muladhara and we'll imagine a small fire starting at Muladhara. Take a deep breath. Release and watch the blood flow. Watch the energy. Fire is burning. Take a deep breath. And relax. Take a deep breath. So Muladhara establishes your connection with the resources of the world for your sustenance, for getting bigger, older, physical and mental nourishment provided by the nature in form of your parents, family, stability, and all the 5 elements get together to ultimately create you and give you the guidance, stability, and for the future growth. You are born with vrittis and vasanas, and believe it or not, these gunas which are built into you go even deeper than that, because your vrittis and vasana were also guided by your gunas, which are so deep-seated, you cannot even imagine. So your vrittis also can be tamasic, rajasic, or tapasic. So if your tendency is like that, naturally all your behavior, your actions, your thoughts, your beliefs also will be guided by these tendencies. So these gunas will ultimately guide your vrittis, and vrittis will guide everything else. Take a deep breath. We'll have to transcend to Swadhisthana, 4-finger below the navel. Take a deep breath. And relax. Watch the energy rising. Fire is burning. Feel the heat. Take a deep breath. And relax. With Swadhisthana, you are expanding after you got established in the samsara. Now your vrittis and vasanas are manifesting. Your gunas are coming out, which has built you right from the beginning. Just the way gunas, or the elemental particles, created this universe. There are several types of gunas, as we discussed, 3 different. It creates your character. It creates your personality. It creates even your food choices, even your friends, whether you choose tamasic friends or tapasic friends or rajasic friends. It all is guided why some friend attracts you more than other friends. It will be all decided by your basic tendencies. Somebody who just came to have pleasures in life will be choosing the tamasic friends and tamasic life. Tamasic profession even will be chosen based on what you want to do in life. Take a deep breath. Relax. So Swadhisthana is burning and you are actively pursuing your goals in life. One who gets stuck in the tamasic life has a very little chance of rising to the consciousness. As you can understand, tamas is all about your ego. Ego wants everything, has no intention of doing anything for anyone. Pleasures, 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 and do as minimum activity as possible. So tamasic tendency is where the ego at its worst. Rajas is where the passion starts rising, energy starts rising, and you want to change the world, you want to change the people. The inner energy is calling you to perform, but you're still bound by the ultimate goal. You may be teaching people, but you want appreciation. You may be doing something for the world, but you want to hear some good news from them. So all those kind of subtle ways the energy comes out. That's how the warriors, the soldiers, they have passion to save their country, but they are still bound to the country, not for the welfare of the world. So this is how, in a very subtle way, different gunas perform. So again, we rise higher to Manipur, in between the rib cage. This is where you assimilate your physical, mental resources, digest, and then be ready to perform. Take a deep breath. Relax. Fire is rising to the Manipur. Remain awake and alert throughout the session. Manipur again. Take a deep breath. And relax. Last one. Take a deep breath. And relax. Fire is rising. Awareness constant. Your body is doing the breathing in and out. Your awareness is staying the same. Whether you're taking the breath in or breath out, awareness is neutral. Awareness is generic. Awareness does not differentiate. It just watches the actions. This witnessing is the function of the awareness. We rise higher to Anahat. Take it. It's the heart center. And relax. Fire is rising to the chest level. A lot of heat coming up. Awareness is just watching. Stay steady. Anahat is expansion and attachment, congeniality, love, affection to all this family and friends and your objects of pleasures that you have created. You share, you go beyond yourself. At least your ego is receding a little bit. At least you are being passionate, making a good living, doing something for your family, which is an expansion going beyond yourself. From tamasic, you become rajasic. Take a deep breath. And relax. Enjoy the peace and the calm. We are just analyzing your life, how you lived so far. How much was tamas in you? How much was rajas in you? And of course, someday you did feel like doing something for someone and you even donated. You helped a poor child. You built up his dream of education or something. That also was there. But for all these things, you need sansara, which you don't realize. Even tapasik guna needs sansara. You want to donate, but you need a recipient to become a donor. You understand the very subtle duality involved in this. Tamas, of course, needs the whole sansar to feed him, fulfill his pleasures, and he doesn't want to do anything. Rajasic wants to do something. He wants to change the world. But change what? The world. You need the world to be changed. So his actions are geared towards sansar, of course, with the great intention to change the world because of his passion, energy. The energy of the youth is everywhere. And we keep on changing our passions. First is passion for money, then is passion for fame, then is passion for recognition. We even have passion for finding God. So all this passion is still good. It's making you higher than tamasic life. But we don't have direction. We're using the same passion we had for generating wealth. We're using the same passion we're doing meditation and looking for God. Again, we don't have direction. Somewhere along the line, you start realizing you felt good when you did not expect anything in return. Yes, you needed someone to receive your donation, but at the same time, whether he blessed you or not, you didn't care. You're reaching tamasic level. Take a deep breath. Anahat is lighted up with fire. Body's burning. A lot of energy rising to Sasar. We rise higher to Vishuddha Chakra at the neck level. Take a deep breath. Relax. Watch the energy rising. Use this energy to keep it above the neck, above the body. Watching the whole process, how the body is doing Tummo. So Vishuddha is where you're still suffering. Despite your various combination of tamas, rajas and tapas, suffering is real. Even though you're performing some good actions and you felt good about it, your life has not become tapasic. The whole life has not become tapasic. You're getting things from somewhere and you're donating. Of course, you feel good because you get donated, but you still have to go back and earn. You still have to perform the actions where you're always a winner. Then you take some money home. This is a very subtle way of looking at these gunas and life. This is where the duality is still very predominant, whether you are tamasic, rajasic, or tapasic, because you're still in sansar. You are still in duality. You are still in the universe. You are still in the time-space complex. All your actions are done in time-space complex. Whatever you do today, you're expecting the return tomorrow. so that you can carry out more tapasic activity. For example, you may or may not, that's another story. But this is how the gunas transcend little by little. But you will be still caught in the time-space complex. Your actions and the results of your action, the fall, you are still gonna want it. No one can be 100% tapasic. Then you have nothing to give. So this is how the life goes. And again, tamas and rajas still creates anxiety. Anxiety for future. What am I gonna get? Regrets. I should have done that. I should not have done that. All these things still plague you. And that's when you realize that there is something beyond that. This is at the Vishuddha level, the intuition comes in and tells you that there is something beyond these gunas. And the call comes from the wild. The call comes from the consciousness, which is wilderness, which is beyond all the gunas. This is where your connection starts getting established. Take a deep breath. With this intuition, you get a call where you can get relief from this time-space complex. You are in a greenhouse. You are a plant being grown in a greenhouse under certain conditions, under certain laws, under certain requirements that you follow, and you grow very well, no problem. But what is beyond the greenhouse, you don't know. Beyond the greenhouse is wilderness. Well, there are no laws. You have to be ready for anything. You have to be ready for a snowstorm in the middle of summer and 120 degrees in the middle of winter. No rules. That's consciousness. That's wild. Intuition gives you the glimpse of that wilderness. Then you rise higher to Agnya Chakra. Take a deep breath. In between the eyebrows, the fire is rising. Take a deep breath. Relax. This is where your intuition and connection with its consciousness is becoming firm. Now you know there is an entity called consciousness, identified as nothingness. You start going beyond your thoughts. Thoughts were your prison. Thoughts were your greenhouse, where you did something and you expected results. And results did come. May not be always what you wanted, but they did come. The greenhouse is where things are kind of predictable, and you try to make it predictable until, of course, something goes wrong and everything falls apart. The house of cards comes down in a second. But you're oblivious to that and trying to prevent all these things. But you still, all the gains that you're getting, all the fur from your karma you're getting is also affected by time and space. The dollar bill that you earn from your hard work still is subject to the time-space complex. The interest, the inflation cuts it down. In 1 year, it goes down by 2%, 3%, who knows, 10%. It loses its value. So all your investments, returns are also subjected to the time and space complex. The girl that you like the most is getting older, losing her beauty. What are you gonna do? Nothing. Time is affecting them. About yourself, you were so much happy with your physical characteristics. They're going down. Nature is working on it. What are you gonna do? You don't know. All these things are gripping you with the anxiety, but with Agnya Chakra, you have realized there is another life beyond all these things. Take a deep breath. Relax. Now your consciousness is gripping you. You are hearing the flute of Krishna, the consciousness. Krishna is not in the statues, it's the Krishna, the consciousness, all pervasive, omnipotent, omnipresent. He's in you, He's in me, He's calling you. You're listening to this tune of wilderness. Go higher, Sahasar Chakra. At some point you realize this, there is something beyond this sansara. There is something beyond this universe where the universe came from. Gunas were created, but before they were created, what was it? Undefinable entity, not bound by the time, not bound by the space, because time and space were created with the universe. So Sasar gives you a glimpse of this wilderness, which is primordial, without any form. It's totally primordial, primitive, undefined, unpredictable. But this is your ultimate fate is beyond all the gunas, because this is where you came from. This is where the gunas originated, that ultimately created the universe. And then they infiltrated in you and me and our vrittis and vasanas and actions and thoughts and ideas and everything. In the sansar, there is rise and fall. In consciousness, there is steadiness. In universe, there is birth, growth, decay, and death, all written with the language of time and space. Time and space stops in consciousness. Take a deep breath. This is where you become synchronized with the consciousness. Body's burnt. The whole life was like a dream, but you still exist. Dreams disappear, but you wake up without the dreams. You still exist. Without this life of samsara, existence will be still there. You just have to experience it. You become the consciousness. You synchronize with the peace, tranquility, and you remain in this state, because this is you, without the gunas, without the vrittis, without the ideas, without the beliefs, without the ego, without the mind. Your mind was telling you that you are the body. There is no mind anymore, no thoughts anymore. What was the body? I don't know. It was just a dream. So you synchronize with the consciousness. This is Krishna's promise. He will take you. Take a deep breath. This is where the cycle of samsara, birth and rebirth, comes to an end. The vicious circle, vicious cycle of yogakshema that was described by Krishna comes to an end. You don't have any desires. So what would you desire? What would you run after? For what? For a dream that is also going to end and then lead to another dream? No. Wisdom has reached to your highest. That's why Buddha was called Buddha, the one with the highest prajna, the highest buddhi. Take a deep breath. This is where your permanent home is. This is where Krishna explains, when you act in the world, understand these gunas, keep on transcending from one level to the next, reach to the highest guna of all, the tapas, where you do things for others, but realize you are still stuck in time and space complex. You are not with me. There is still some doership there. There is still little ego there. Drop everything. So you don't have to worry about anything. Krishna's promise is, you stop having desires. You stop running after objects of pleasure, and you stop getting caught into this vicious circle of yoga kshema. I take care of your yoga and I'll take care of your kshema. There is a beautiful slok which is skips my mind right now, which I'll narrate it next time. But Krishna's beautiful guarantee that you become a karta at every single level, there is still karta bhav, that you are the doer. You transcend this doership and you become non-doer. He describes every karma as, every action as action, inaction, and unaction. Action is where you are, with the full intention, you are acting in the world with your goal to get something. Inaction is where you have chosen not to act, like tamasic people, but it is still a chosen thing. It is still an action at the mind level, not to do anything. But they are moved, they don't understand that. And then there is unaction, where you act, but you do not exist. Krishna says, offer everything to me. Remain synchronized with me. And you know what? You will never have to worry about your yoga and kshema. One who is seated in this sthit prajna state described by Krishna, when he will act in the world, he will be acting for the world. But regardless, it will become his nature to act that way. Whether somebody responds or not, it will be out of question. And you will, at that level, become a rarity, because the whole world is divided into these gunas. You have transcended the gunas. You will act without anything in return, and everything falls in your feet. The whole sansar bows down to you, whether you want or not. This is where the ultimate secret Krishna gives out. Become a karta. Karma phal tyag. You do the karma, give up the tyag. Tyag means giving up the phal, the fruits of your action. Again, in a very subtle way, if you understand this, this is where the future comes. All your actions tied to the future fruits of action. Again, that's the language of time and space. Beyond the time and space, there is only consciousness. There is beauty. There is elegance. There is peace. This is where we belong with Krishna. Have a good day.